we are discussing the role of reproductive isolation in speciation. That means when the members of the same species, they show reproductive isolation, that means they are not able to reproduce amongst themselves, that also results into speciation. So what exactly is the role of this reproductive isolation? The first important reason or first important point which this isolation does is it maintains distinctive characters, and second, it also results in accumulation of variations. In accumulation of variations. Now these are the two main reasons why this reproductive isolation is considered very, very important in the process of speciation. And if we have to divide this reproductive isolation, we can classify it as pre-mating isolation, pre-mating reproductive isolation, and second is post-mating reproductive isolations. That means what are those mechanisms which are applicable before the members of the same species are even able to reproduce or interbreed amongst themselves? The first one that we take in this category is geographical barriers. That means if the members of the same species, they get separated by some geographical barriers like a valley or a river or a mountain, then there is a pre-mating barrier. Pre-mating means they are not even able to mate with each other or reproduce. The second is when the organisms are in different areas, they also show different time period of the maturation or activity of their gonads. So it can be seasonal. Seasonal, which can depend on the day duration or photo period. We know that most of the lower organisms, they are seasonal breeders, and the activity of their gonads depends on the duration of the day period or day duration. So organisms which are coming to lie in different areas, if they have different photo periods, say in some area the day duration is long, which we see in case of summer season, and in the other area the photo period is short, which is very common in winter season. So we are actually trying to say that the members of the same species, they have ended up in two different areas with different seasons, and in those seasons their gonadial activities are also going to be different. So if the gonads or the sex organs do not mature at the same time, they will not be able to interbreed. The third reason which we can take here is different habitats. Different habitats. And we took the example of pig frog and gopher frog in the previous video to understand how having different habitats prevent this reproduction amongst themselves. Then there can be physiological reasons. Again, it can be related to the gonadial activities, various processes by which the egg and the sperms are formed, that is spermatogenesis, oogenesis. That can also be different. Another reason could be mechanical differences. As the organisms, though they are coming from the same species, they may have variation in their external genitalia and they may not be able to interbreed. There can be genetic differences also. Genetic differences also, which would result into chromosomal incompatibility. Chromosomal incompatibility. And the last one is behavioral differences. Behavioural, or it is also known as ethological. The members of slightly different species or subspecies, they have different types of courtship behaviors, and these courtship behaviors are normally executed by males in order to attract the females. So if the members of different species or subspecies are having different types of courtships, the other member may not even understand that this is the courtship gesture. So that can also result into pre-mating reproductive isolation. So this is very common. Sometimes these pre-mating reproductive isolations are broken and they mate. So the next stage of barrier or isolation comes into action, that is post-mating. That means mating has taken place and the gametes have fused. Then after that, what would result into this isolation, or what would result into stopping of that one mistake which has taken place? It could be gametic mortality. That means if the male gamete of one species enters into the body of the female of another species, then the male gamete might not even survive there. So that can result into this barrier, reproductive isolation. Then if suppose the gametes fused and the zygote is formed, then the zygote doesn't survive. That means it would be called zygote mortality. Zygote would not survive. And in case if the zygote survives, then it could be the organism which is formed, that is the hybrid mortality or hybrid sterility. Either the hybrid is going to die, or if the hybrid is born, then it would be sterile. So this is hybrid sterility. But there are exceptions. In case of hybrid sterility, we can take the example of mule. It is a hybrid obtained from horses and donkeys, and it is sterile. But the hybrids which are obtained from lion and tiger, different species, that means a hybrid of lion and tigress, which is known as liger, and of a tiger and lioness, which is known as tigon. Both are fertile. And one reason could be that tigers and lions, they are very, very closely related species. We know that for gamete identification, there are chemicals like fertilizing and anti-fertilizing, which need to be identified, and they can be identified only when they're coming from the same species. So maybe these two have very close type of chemical compounds and they identify each other, and that is why the hybrids which are born, they are fertile. One more thing which can happen after this is what we call hybrid breakdown, which is actually happening in case of this mule. It is called hybrid breakdown. Whenever we use the term hybrid, we talk of two terms. One is hybrid vigor and other is hybrid breakdown. Normally, nature prefers the best genes from both the parents, and the hybrid which is obtained shows better characters because it is having the dominant traits from one parent and the dominant traits from the other, and that is why it shows vigor. So we use the term hybrid vigor. Sometimes in such cases the hybrid which is formed has recessive of both the parents. So it would have weaker characters or traits as compared to the parent. Then that would be called hybrid breakdown. And these are the post-mating reproductive isolations and these are pre-mating. So reproductive isolation also results into speciation, and that is what we were discussing in this video. So now we are left with only the last part, that is the human evolution. So in the next video we'll talk about that.